John 11:9, 10, and Eva. 9. Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light." 10. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light. Before we dive into the specific verses, it's important to understand the context in which they are situated. In this chapter, we read about the death and resurrection of Lazarus, who was a dear friend of Jesus. When Jesus heard about his friend's death, he told his disciples that Lazarus was only sleeping and not dead, and that he was going to awaken him. However, the disciples did not understand what Jesus meant. Jesus' response. In response to the disciples' confusion, Jesus said, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light." Jesus is trying to explain to the disciples that there is a certain time limit to everything, including life. During the daylight, when one can see clearly, there is no reason for someone to stumble. However, at night, when it is dark and one cannot see, there is a chance of stumbling. The spiritual implications. The metaphor Jesus uses in these verses is not limited to just physical sight. He is trying to explain to the disciples that there is a spiritual implication to his words. The light that Jesus is referring to is the light of the world, which is him. If one follows Jesus, then they will never stumble as they have the light to guide them. But if one chooses to ignore Jesus and follow their own ways, then they will stumble because they do not have the light to guide them. In these verses, Jesus is reminding us to follow him in everything we do. If we put our trust in him, then we will never stumble as we have the light of the world to guide us. But if we choose to ignore Jesus, then we will find ourselves stumbling in the darkness, and we will find it hard to find our way.